Okay, so let's go ahead and solve and graph these two inequalities. And I'm going to start by graphing these ones. So this is x is less than or equal to 8. So I know that I've got two sets of numbers, -8 and 8. I'm going to have closed circles on both of these. And the question is this an and statement or an or statement? X is a number, the distance away from 0 smaller than 8. So where on the graph are the areas where the distance away from 0 is smaller than 8? That would be everything inside. So my compound inequality is -8 is less than or equal to x is less than or equal to 8. The second one, u is less than 3.5. I'm going to make my inequality here. 0 in the middle, -3.5 over here, and 3.5 over there. This is saying, where is it less than 3.5? I have an open circle on 3.5, a -3.5, and an open circle on 3.5. Less than is my areas in between again. And what's my compound inequality? -3.5 is less than x is less than 3.5. If you had trouble answering those two questions correctly, please make sure that you seek out answers. You can leave questions in the comments or make sure to contact me in some way. But let's move on to our next example. So a couple of things to remember here before we do any actual equations. So this, the sign that we see in our absolute value inequalities makes a big difference. So I want you to recognize that the less than sign here, and let's change the ink color for a second here. The less than sign creates an and statement, right? And when we do something, if it has a less than sign here, this and statement is going to create a compound inequality. And a way to remember that is this. Say it out loud with me. Well, don't say it out loud, but you can do whatever. Say it in your brain. Less than. You know, less than. That's to help you remember that less than is making an and statement, and your answers should therefore be a compound inequality. Now, a greater than symbol is an or statement. And or statements have this layout where it's two inequalities. And to help you remember that, greater than, right? There's an or in the middle of greater than. I hope you recognize that that is a purposeful misspelling of greater, right? Greater than. Greater than signs create or statements, which are two inequalities. Let's do some practice. We're just going to keep doing this in red here. So this is a greater than sign, great or than, which means that I'm going to create two inequalities. Now, I want to go back and just show you one quick thing. Remember this weird phenomena that showed up back here. Notice that when we made the second equation, we flipped the inequality sign and we changed the sign of the number. We're going to do that same thing here. So we're going to split this up. X minus 5 is greater than or equal to 7. 7's got arms. The other equation we create, x minus 5, I'm changing the inequality sign, whoop, and I'm changing the sign of the 7 to be -7. Now we solve each one. Plus 5 plus 5, this is x is greater than or equal to 12. Plus 5 plus 5, this is x is less than or equal to -2. So there's my inequality solution. X is greater than or equal to 12, or x is less than or equal to -2. And remember, or statements do not become compound. You leave them like this, right? And if we wanted to graph this bad boy, we throw these down here, right? Totally to scale, obviously. We have a closed-in circle on -2, closed-in circle on 12. That's greater than for the 12 and less than for the -2. Or statements go out sideways. Let's do another example. Notice that this is a less than symbol. Less than, right? And less than. And that looks like a P. That looks like less vamp. Sorry, it should be less than. This looks like a greater than or equal to symbol. Let's just let's erase that right there. Okay. Oh bollocks. Okay, let's try this again. Oh, I'm swearing in English. I really am losing control right now. So let's solve this particular inequality. So notice first of all, absolute value not solved for. Let's do a quick step here to get that solved for. -4x minus 5 is less than 6. This is an AND statement, right? And so when things are AND statements, remember they make compound inequalities. So here's the great thing we get to do. -6 is less than -4x minus 5, which is less than +6. An AND statement creates a compound inequality. So I'm going to add 5. I'm going to solve this now. This is -1 is less than -4x, which is less than 11. Then I'm going to divide everything by -4. And I'm going to get 1/4 is less than x, which is less than -11/4. Whoop. Through the magic of editing, I made a mistake on my initial one. I forgot to change the sign. Notice here that this crazy thing happened. We're dividing by a -4, which means we need to change these signs around. So this is greater than x, which is greater than -11/4. So we're just going to then reverse this to be the correct order, and we will have our solution. Because remember, we always want to go least to greatest. So there's our compound inequality solution. It is all numbers between -11/4, which is less than x, which is less than 1/4. All right, go on back to your Canvas lesson. I've got 2 more questions for you, and then you can switch things over to the last video, which will answer the last 2 questions.